Chapter 18 New Solutions, New Problems. Chapter Content. Lith kept running until he was out of the woods, turning his head from time to check with life vision as he was being followed. There is no trace of the Rai, but better safe than sorry. I'm afraid I have pissed off that thing quite bad. It's better to give it some time to vent off and search for easier preys. He was near Celia's house, when he finally remembered about the magical stone. Lith activated life vision, getting a good look up close. The first thing he noticed was that the rough edges on the stone had smoothened up. It did not prick his skin anymore. The surface was still rough, but now looked like a stone marble. The buzzing sound had stopped from a while, and the magical stone's life force, despite being still at the same level, had changed significantly. Back when he saw it for the first time, its life force was like a candle about to burn out of wax. Now it had become steady, with a regular pulse. Warning Celia about the magical beast took priority, so he hid the stone in a leather pouch he always carried at his neck before knocking at her door. Lith explained her everything, describing in detail the size and power of the Rai, leaving her flabbergasted. Of course, he never mentioned their fight. Lith told her that he had fled as soon as their eyes met, and that he got away only thanks to his magic, showing his tattered sleeves as proof. Good gods, kid, she still refused to call him by his name. You have been really lucky it took it easy on you. Had the Rai decided to give you chase, we would not be having this conversation. Nonetheless, thanks for warning me first, instead of going to your parents. Celia ruffled his hair. How do you know I came here first? Because if you didn't, your parents would have probably locked you up in your house, and one of them would have come here to warn me in your place. Lith froze up. He had just dodged a bullet much scarier than any Rai. You are right. Is better not to tell them, otherwise my hunting days may be over forever. Yeah, I suggest you taking the rest of the morning off. Make up an excuse for those sleeves and go home. Celia walked over the shed near her house where she kept her game maturating. Take these as a thank you for the heads up. She handed him a rabbit and a blinker, ready to be cooked. I was about to go in the woods. I think I will follow my advice, instead, and keep tanning the remaining pelts. I'll go to hunting in the afternoon, when it should be safer. Lith thanked her with a deep bow. He knew how precious meat was in Lucia, even for a huntress as good as Celia. Not to mention she had just saved him from perpetual house arrests. He spent the rest of the morning trying to understand how to use the magic stone. It appeared to be feeding off Lith's mana. Not leeching it like a parasite, more like nibbling at the mana that he naturally released being talented in magic. The stone would simply breathe in what Lith's body breathed out, nothing more. Lith tried injecting mana into it, but to no avail. Then he casted elemental spells while holding the stone, to check if their strength, cast speed and area of effect were affected in any way. All of his experiments gave no results. The stone looked just like any other. Stones do not have such a clear mana flow, and certainly they do not have any life force. Maybe this thing needs time to heal, to recharge or something. The Rai messed it up quite bad. Let's hope it's not broken. Unless it starts harming me, I'll keep it. Maybe it's some kind of treasure, or maybe I can find something about it on Nana's books. I just have to be patient. The last days of autumn passed on uneventful, until winter arrived. Having reached the 5 years of age, Lith revealed a little more of his magic talents, proving to be invaluable to his family. He would wake up first and warm up the whole house with magic, even the floors. At that point the fireplace was lit only because it was cozy, and because rounding up around the fire, especially during the stormy winter evenings, was a family tradition. Even the cooking was entrusted to Lith. Alina would prepare the meal, and Lith would cook it faster and better than a ventilated oven, keeping the soup warm for everyone during the whole meal. He could not go hunting anymore because of the bad weather. His parents had been adamant on that. But Lith could still go to Celia's house to perform the chores for her. During the last year, she had become so lazy to become dependent on Lith for keeping her house clean and her tools sterilized. This meant killing 2 birds with 1 stone for Lith. Now he had an excuse to go fetch his private stock of meat whenever he got hungry, and Celia had to pay him for the chores. Lith would do it for free, just to get out of the house, but his parents would not agree. So, Celia paid him a few copper coins to clean her house, and some more for Alina to do her laundry. Both Alina and Roz would welcome any extra income, and doing the laundry for 8 instead of 7 wasn't much an effort. Especially since Lith provided her an endless supply of hot water. "Nice to meet you, I am Lith, Boiler Supreme," he would grumble inwardly every time. In the first weeks of winter, Lith made a very important breakthrough. He finally understood how to use Invigoration's body imaging on others. He was now able to let his mana seep into another person's body, and slowly take control of their mana flow, allowing Lith to know everything about the subject's physical condition. The only way to achieve such a result was to keep physical contact, searching way-ins for the mana without harming him/her. Lith immediately used it on Tista, and his findings were appalling. Her body was full of the tar-like substance, that for the lack of a better term, he had dubbed impurities. And the cause of that was her lungs. Barely half of Tista's lungs were made up by a healthy tissue. The rest appeared like a black-brown mass that actively produced impurities, that over time filled the healthy tissues of her lungs and windpipe, making her cough first and ill later. After giving it some thought, Lith was sure to have found a fix better than everything he had done before, but much more embarrassing. Even though now his real age was that of a 30-year-old man, he was still in a 5-year-old body, which found extremely uncomfortable the idea of speaking of certain matters. Especially with the family women. After some deep breaths to calm down, he called Roz and Alina to ask for their help and permission. He had to dumb down the procedure quite a lot to get them to understand. "Basically, I cannot cure Tista, not yet. But I discovered a way that should make her feel much better. In the best-case scenario, she could even get rid of most of her symptoms. And in the worst-case scenario," Roz asked full of worries. "At worst she will be the same. I'm certain of it. But I need you to trust me." Contrary to his expectations, they did not make any objections or question. Their trust in Lith's mastery of magic was boundless, and in their eyes, he was just a 5-year-old, while Tista was barely 7. She had yet to mature in every way. For them it was like yesterday when they bathed together in the wash tub. The first phase was the easiest. Lith would take control of Tista's mana flow, overloading her body with his mana, and forcing the impurities to move away from the inner organs and toward the skin. She would just feel hot the whole time, like having a mild fever. Once most of the impurities were about to surface, Lith demanded to be blindfolded and that either Alina or Rena witness the process. Tista was just a kid, and Lith feared that over time suspicions might arise. During Earth's Middle Ages, incestuous relationships were disgustingly common, and he rejected even the idea of being thought of as a pervert. The second and last phase required Tista to be soaking in the wash tub, that had been previously filled by Lith with hot water and soap. He clearly remembered the stench the impurities gave off, and during winter ventilating the house was difficult, especially in Tista's condition. Cold was her worst enemy. Then, he could finally extract the impurities by using modern magic, creating and manipulating flows that would massage Tista all over her body. Lith would destroy the impurities as soon as possible with dark magic, preventing them to release their smell. It was a difficult process that required using water and darkness magic, all while keeping Invigoration active. After the treatment, he would also use water magic to remove all the water still on her body, and then mix fire and wind magic to obtain a makeshift hairdryer. When it was finally over, Tista looked like she was just back from a spa, while Lith looked like he had just got back from mining, drenched in sweat and out of breath. "How do you feel?" Tista made some deep breaths. "I never felt so good. Like, ever. Also, I always dreamt of having a winter bath, instead of having to resort to warm water-soaked towels. Thanks, lil bro, you just made 2 of my wishes come true." She tried to hug him, but he raised his arms in defense. "Please, no, I'm disgusting right now, do not ruin my hard work. I now need a bath, some food and 2 hours rest, minimum." Both his mother and big sister nodded. "Lith, dear, what was that thing with the water that you did?" Alina asked. "Do you mean the—" "Damn it, I can't tell her I was imitating a hydro-massage, they do not have Latin here. Nor I can call it a jacuzzi or something. Whatever, I'm too tired for this sh*t. Water massage. Yes, that, it seemed so relaxing. Tista has fallen asleep many times during her treatment. Sure, it must be pleasant." Reina's words were filled with expectation. And that thing for drying her hair, could you do that again too? Alina raised the ante, their aim more and more obvious by the second. Lith was on the verge of collapsing, he had no time to spare with niceties. Are you implying that you would like a hot water massage too? More nodding followed, their hands joined in a silent plea. But, Lith stuttered, both of you are. He was trying to find a polite way to say, hot. Lith could still remember Alina's naked body when he was still an infant, and she had aged very well. Rena was now 11, maybe it was the countryside lifestyle, maybe it was related to the new world, but she had already begun her growth spurt, developing some curves, being nice and soft in all the right places. Lith already had so many qualms for his little sister, and Tista was as flat as a board, only her long hairs gave her away as a girl instead of a boy. We are family, and all of us have dreamt of being able to take a bath during winter without catching a cold or worse. You have no idea how smelly we become by working in the barn, surrounded by the livestock smell and their dung. Sometimes the smell is so bad we can't even sleep at night. Couldn't you help us too? Alina, his mother, completely oblivious of Lith's worries, tried to play the guilt card. Lith gave up. Fine, just let me rest a bit and then I'll help you. But you still need to blindfold me, and I demand a witness. They both started laughing out loud. Why so many qualms? You are just a baby, not some thug. I would like to say that I am a gentleman, but I do not know the word for it. I could say that I am a man, but that would make them laugh even harder. Stupid 5-year-old body, he thought. Decorum, it was the only word in his vocabulary he could resort to. Damn, this is going to be a freaking long winter. Chapter 19 Conflicts. Chapter Content. As Lith predicted, his fifth winter revealed to be quite interesting. Treating Tista's condition required 2 sessions per week minimum, each one lasting around 4 hours. 2 for the treatment itself and the remaining time for him to bathe and recover his strength. Manipulating Tista's mana flow while simultaneously using fire, water and dark magic took its toll every time. The good news was that with so much practice, he was becoming accustomed to casting and maintaining several spells active at once. Every treatment was easier than the previous one and her symptoms were quickly improving. Tista was now able to help with the house chores and the livestock. She could even afford making long walks outside, when the weather was good. The bad news was that Lith's relationship with his brothers was now uglier than ever before. Every time Tista got better, someone would reproach Orpal for his past words, and if no one did, then Tista would. Orpal's fits of rage had really hurt her, his cruel words had shattered the image she always had of her perfect family, of her caring big brother. Tista had been humiliated and betrayed, and she was not going to forget that easily. Also, soon after hot winter baths had become available, Roz too started to bathe often. Orpal and Tryon were the only ones left out. Orpal because he could not stand the thought of having to ask something from Lith, especially if he had to do it politely. I'm the eldest brother, I'm not supposed to beg runts for favors. I'm supposed to give orders and be respected for it. That leech now has turned even the cripple against me. And I can't put Tista in her place, otherwise she will make me look like I'm the bad guy who picks on a sick little girl. Manipulative B*TCH. Tryon was between a rock and a hard place. He deeply loved Tista, but he also loved and respected Orpal. Tryon was the only one by his side, so he had not the heart to betray their bond. With everyone else fresh and clean, their smell stuck out like a sore thumb. Even with all their family goodwill, disgusted grimaces were impossible to avoid from time to time. The first time Tista dubbed the duo as Orpoop and Tirik, she brought down the house with laughter. Orpal and Tryon blamed Lith for their humiliation, but he just ignored them like he always did. Roz made for Lith a pair of snowshoes, spending more and more time with him. Roz also started imparting him lessons about how to operate a farm and teaching how to whittle. Lith was still very young, but knowing he was able to skin and gut his game, Roz thought there was no risk for him in handling a carving knife. Orpal and Tryon lived the situation differently, though. Until then, Lith had spent most of his time with the girls, letting Roz spend all his free time with the boys. They felt wrong twice, once because Lith was robbing them of their dad time, the second because he always refused teaching them whittling before they reached the age of 8. Things got even more unpleasant for Lith after midwinter. Every time he would treat Tista, he could notice that something was off. Both his mother and sister had an odd look in their eyes. Often, they would open their mouth, only to close them right away, giving him the silent treatment for hours. Lith couldn't figure out the reason of this behavior, so his mind started spinning like crazy. Did they believe me a pervert? Have I looked at them in an inappropriate way? Maybe they are starting to suspect something. Maybe they know I am from a different world. Lith's full-blown paranoia wouldn't give him a second of rest, preventing him to have a good night of sleep. He heard them sighing too often. Something was definitely off. It took Lith all his courage to muster the strength to face them and ask for the truth. The confrontation took place in the girls' room, where they were all gathered for Tista's treatment. Lith, did you really not notice any changes? Alina asked, pouting. Yes, I did. Tista is feeling much better now, right? Of course there's that, but don't you notice anything here? She waved her hand, going from Tista's head to toes. That's my sister. And, she prompted. Her health is getting better, nothing is getting worse. Tista is still Tista. For the first time in his 3 lives, Lith could spectate with his own eyes a synchronized facepalm outside internet meme gifs. Rena was fuming. Really, don't you notice that her hair is soft and silky? That it never tangles or gets split ends? Tista had light brown hair with shades of purple all over them. Ever since the treatment began, the color had got more vibrant and visible. Shades of purple, this is really another world after all. I wonder why women do have them and men do not, Lith thought. Now that you mention it, yes I do. But normally I don't care for hair, I keep mine short for a reason. Rena shook her head. Don't you even notice that her skin has got smoother? With no imperfections, that she is growing taller and slender than her peers. Lith kept scratching his head. He knew nothing about the average girl. Also, they were simply describing the side effects of removing impurities. And why is that a problem? Aren't those all good things? This time even Tista joined the facepalm. They are envious of those things, dummy. They just want you to do the same for them. Lith was flabbergasted by such trivial demands. All those grimaces, the silent treatment, all of it for such a stupid reason. Lith, dear, being attractive for a girl is a pretty big deal. For your sisters could mean getting the possibility to choose between just a wealthy man, and a good, wealthy man. It can affect their entire life, their happiness. That sounded right to Lith's ears. How could I have not thought of that? While for your poor mother, it means that she can finally make all those pompous, high and mighty neighbors of her, that keep bragging about having so much more money than her. Flaunting all the pricey beauty creams they can afford, kicking themselves out of envy. That sounded right to Lith's ears too. He accepted with a sigh, and his life finally returned to normal. He had to spend at least 3 afternoons a week for all the treatments, but it was worth it. All that practice made his mana core grow steady and fast, his control of mana and cast speed improved by leap and bounds. Right before the end of winter, he was forced to take in a new customer. With the weather improving, the neighboring families started meeting often. Sometimes for a visit, more often they would simply bump into each other while trading goods at the village. And that was driving Roz crazy. Lith, you have to help me. His plea was desperate. Your mother looks at least 10 years younger, and I am starting to look more like her father rather than her husband. People keep murmuring how she was unfortunate marrying me, that she could have got so much better. Please do your thing on me too. Lith had heard the rumors. They were mean and petty, and deserved to be faced head-on. He would not allow anyone to speak ill of his dad. Fine, but only at some conditions, the same I asked from Mom. 1. Secrecy. Nobody must ever know outside you and me. Think of all the bad people that could want to exploit me. Roz nodded. 2. You will never talk about it with Orpal or Tryon, nor ask me to do it for them. I don't care if they fall on love or want to marry. They made pretty clear what they feel toward me and Tista. I will not endanger my safety for them. Take it or leave it. Roz wanted to object, remind Lith that they were family too. But their behavior had only gotten worse after being forced to spend so much time together during winter. Roz had to scold them multiple times just to make them behave properly. I can only hope that when they grow up, my sons will be able to mend their relationship. I can't force them to get along. And so, he accepted. A few weeks later, Lith was headed to Celia's house for the usual cleaning, before going hunting. The dawn's light made the world around him look like out of a fairy tale. The thin layer of snow was immaculate, reflecting the orange light over the weeds and trees along the way. His surroundings were completely silent, the world still and at peace. At the next clearing, Lith took out the magic stone out of his pouch, observing it in the morning light. During the winter months the magic stone had mended most of the teeth marks. Both its life force and mana flow had tremendously improved, but it was still useless as the day Lith found it. Just my luck, he sighed. I risked my life facing that Rye for nothing. Let's hope I can find something in Nana's books, otherwise my only option is to find someone willing to buy it. Lith was really impatient to start his apprenticeship. It meant being finally able to study magic from books instead as a self-taught. Also, as an apprentice healer, he would get practice magic and be paid for it, gaining the village recognition and respect. So many birds with just one stone. After putting the magic stone back into the pouch, Lith arrived at his destination and opened the door. That day Celia was out of town to sell her merchandise, so she had left the door open for him. It didn't take him much time to clean everything and leave. As soon as he walked out the house, he got hit in the head by a wooden stick. Lith's eyes went blurry, he felt someone pushing him back inside, making him fall to the ground with a kick in the stomach. Look who's here, the little leech. Lith recognized that voice, he was one of Orpal's friends. 4 boys quickly surrounded Lith, kicking him while he was still down, while a 5th closed the door after checking that no one did notice them. You little arrogant piece of sh*t. Orpal told us all about you. How you humiliate him every day, how you even dare stealing his food. Yeah, another one yelled. He is your big brother, it should be him getting the best part of the game, not you, little ungrateful runt. Less yelling and more kicking, Trant. Remember Orpal's words, if Leech gets the chance to use his magic, we are finished. Despite Lith was curling up, desperately trying to shield his head and stomach, another kick grazed his face, making one of his baby teeth fall. I know what to do. Trant moved forward gripping Lith's hands with enough strength to crush them. Let's see how he does magic without hands. By coming that close, Trant had forced his friends to stop kicking, and a moment was all that Lith needed. He released all the lightning he could muster, shocking Trant out cold. But before he could do anything else, the wooden stick hit him in the head again, making him collapse. UDCK head. How dare you hurt your seniors? You deserve to die. The beating resumed, this time with no hint of mercy or holding back. Lith started coughing blood and teeth. The 4 had him surrounded. Lith tried multiple times rolling out of the encirclement, but he would be sent back in the middle every single time. Lots of feelings were ravaging his mind, while his body was burning with pain. The spite for his brother's betrayal, the rage of being assaulted by boys with double his age and size. But most of all, he felt helpless, and afraid of death. Damn magic, what use are you if I don't have the time to concentrate? Stupid stone, I kept you hanging from my neck for months, do something. Help me, somebody, anybody, help me. All his silent pleas went unfulfilled. While his conscience was fading, Lith started cursing himself for his weakness and helplessness. Magic, martial arts, all that careful preparation, useless. Oddly, his last thought was not for his family or revenge, but for his last opponent. If only I was as strong as a Rye. He stopped my spirit magic so easily by. His survival instinct kicked in, his mind and body acting in unison. By infusing himself with mana. And I can do that too. It's the same principle behind life and fire vision. With each breath he started calling upon the elemental energy, but instead of wasting time giving it a form, Lith let it merge directly with his mana core, infusing himself with earth magic. His whole body started hardening, the pain getting duller and duller. Lith also infused himself with light magic, accelerating his healing and preventing himself from losing consciousness. Soon he was able to ignore the kicks, springing back up in one fluid motion. What is earth? It's just a mix of minerals and organic matter, the same as my body. I can be immovable like a mountain. With that thought, he further hardened his head, before headbutting from below the chin of the assailant in front of him. Before the remaining 3 could recover from the surprise and resume the encirclement, Lith raised his guard. The left arm forward for blocking, the right arm ready to strike. Orpal's friends were scared. After Lith knocked down their leader with the headbutt, the only thing on their mind was to prevent him to use magic, so they rushed forward, not giving him time to recover. The closest assailant tried to punch Lith in the face, to disrupt any casting he could attempt. 60% of the human body is made of water. I can be formless like water. Lith's left arm, imbued with water magic, coiled around his opponent's right arm like a snake. The body burns calories to produce heat and energy. I can be destructive like fire. Fire magic burned through his muscles, granting Lith short bursts of explosive strength. By flexing his left arm, Lith broke the immobilized limb in 3 points, elbow, ulna and radius, while his right fist hit the opponent on the nose, pulverizing it. The pain made the boy faint, his nose bleeding profusely. The remaining 2 fell into panic, and tried to run away. Nerves, synapses. All the information and orders in the body are transmitted via electrical impulse. I can be fast as lightning. Lith imbued all his body with air magic, becoming fast enough to blink in front of them, punching both in the gonads at the same time. All of his opponents were down, sobbing in pain or fainted. Lith spit a mouthful of blood, while contemplating the results of his last experiment. Seems that this new magic puts too much strain on my body. Maybe I'm too young, maybe I took too much damage, whatever. I have all the time in the world now. I need to decide what to do with you mother effers, Lith said while using light magic to heal his internal injuries. It may take a while, but you'll get my undivided attention. Enjoy your stay. Lith sat on the couch, his left hand on the chest, performing the healing. The right one was open in front of him, releasing 5 streams of lightning that enveloped the 5 boys like tendrils, making them scream with agony.